Hi, everyone. Thank you, Gilly, and the whole team for organizing this amazing event. We have with you the most exciting session right now, and we're going to talk about how to do business with Mittelstand and corporate in Europe. So my name is Dikla Wagner, and I'm head of tech scouting for Munich Re here in Israel. Munich Re, as you all know, is one of the most largest reinsurance company. I'm heading the Israeli office, which means that we're bringing innovation, startup opportunities to Munich Re and to our client. And today we have with us global experts. It's great to have you all. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. My name is Michael Malach. I'm from the Charité, as I have introduced myself in the morning already. So I'm doing IT, so IT for our corporate, for the Charité. I'm in charge for all applications we run for research and teaching departments, so I'm not in charge for the clinical side. Yeah, I'm over 20 years in healthcare business, actually, almost 20 years, and started as a business computing expert and BI expert, and came then in the healthcare market, which is very special, actually. So we heard this here already. So yeah, I joined the Charité in 2009. I think I got a quite good overview about this market and the situation here, and I would like to share it with you.
Yeah, hi everyone. First of all, thanks for having me on the panel. Nice to be with you, Dikla, Michael, and Klaus. So you have probably heard the reverse pitch. So my name is Christina. I'm working as partnership manager at the Lufthansa Innovation Hub. And before joining LIH, I was part of Lufthansa Group for more than 10 years in various commercial teams, revenue management, sales. So I kind of experienced like both worlds, head office, but also like the regional office in APEC that we have in Singapore. So, and talking about these both worlds, I like to use a metaphor right now for my current role. It's like building the bridges between the startup ecosystem and Lufthansa Group, because I think to build this link or this bridge is often necessary between these two worlds. But I'm sure that there are various pathways that corporates are creating right now that facilitate actually the collaboration between startups and corporates. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Klaus. I'm like Dikla from the insurance industry, working for one of the large players, global players in the world, Allianz. At least most of the people know Allianz Stadium in Munich, and there are 10 other stadiums around the world. At Allianz, I'm in charge of all the major strategic digital projects, running from IT project to new business models. Besides that, I'm a board member of the InsurTech Hub Munich, which is a non-profit organization bringing together startups with the incumbents, universities, and our managing director, Christian, I think will have a reverse pitch as well and introducing it. My personal background, I joined Allianz 10 years ago at the head of the motor business. Before that, I spent many years in media and retail, and I launched my first commercial website already back in 1995. It was called www.oktoberfest.de, and the main content was a webcam in a beer tent. Was a wonderful experience at that time.
Did you get the rights for the URL?
I had to hand it over to the city of Munich later on when they found out that there's something like the internet.
Thank you all. It's great to have you all. So let's kick off with the first question, and it's really about Mittelstand. So what is Mittelstand? What's the difference between corporate and Mittelstand? And maybe we will start by somebody saying this without an Israeli accent. Mittelstand.
So then I start. So as a global player, I'm not actually from the Mittelstand. I think Mittelstand actually is a mid-corp organization. Most of you know mid-corp. But I think the size of the company between 50 to 250 employees and so on, that's not most important. It's rather the mental approach. Most of the Mittelstand corporates are really part of, let's say, of the German economic miracle already in the 1950s. So they are quite often family-owned, family-run, and very successful in their business. And we come to this later on. when you approach them, you need a different approach compared, let's say, to talk to the large corporates, because they really expect you much more than the large corporations to understand every detail of the business model. They want to talk to you on eyes level, and I think that's quite important as one learning already.
Thank you. Thank you. So all of us are leading innovation in our organization, and when working with startup, it's a long journey. And we have, of course, mutual goal. All of us want to create success story. All of us want to generate new business. But there are also difference in expectation and in a different dynamic. Can you share with us what the key factors for startup to work successfully with you?
Yeah, so it's not in healthcare is a bit special, and for our institution, so we are public owned, and a lot of regulations. So we heard that already. Makes it not. I don't want to frighten you, so you are more than welcome to get in contact. But it is not that easy, so, and there are other industries that are probably more open than the healthcare market. Do I have to say? But what is key factor? So you have to, you have to be focused. You have to know the market you want to enter, and you know what do you want to address. This is, I think, for me, it's kind of key factor. So it's not like if you have maybe you have an health app, digital health app designed that works very well here or in the States. It most probably won't work in Germany. So that is really important to understand. And so first you have to do your homework, do research, get in contact. How is the market regulated? What are the pains? And then, for me as IT responsible, so if there's a startup comes and say, I have this solution here, so it's cool. And I say, okay, and what do we with the regulations here, what is that, how you address this, and then, didn't know that, explain this, and that's not cool for me, so I don't want to have a win-win situation, so come with the solutions, and in order to find solution for those special market-related questions, you have to, do your homework, do research, and learn how this market actually works, yeah.
Yeah, I actually 100% agree, Michael. I would also say, first of all, we talked about the cultural differences. We just, I think, have to acknowledge the cultural gaps, let's say, in terms of organizational speed and maybe risk propensity. It's a different era culture, of course, at big corporates than super quick, agile startups that are used to pivot. And in general, I would say do research in terms of market dynamics, pain points that you want to address. And then I think also be more purposeful and proactive in your selection and engagement of your partnership types. So don't think rather just of sales, but what are the mutual benefits? And I always say, think of a partnership Venn diagram. What does the corporate want? What do their customers want, and what do you want, and focus in the middle.
Perhaps I can add two observations. Over the last few years, I have been working as a sort of a mentor for Israeli startups in the field of insurance and finance, and two learnings from this. The one is really, I think we heard it already in the last session, it's quite helpful to have some sort of a matchmaker who really helps you to enter the market. That can be a person, a company, but also for the insurance, for example, the InsurTech Hub Munich, which really gives a lot of insights, but mainly I would call it a matchmaking platform for incumbents and startups. That's one observation. The other one is really at least in the field of insurance and finance, that's of course a big business. It's a multi-trillion market, and most of the Israeli startup kick off their business in the US. And quite often they already have some success in the US, and then they come to Europe or to Asia, and they think the markets will work in the very same way, and they do not really understand the customer journey. And they like to tell incumbents how customers behave without really going into detail. And I think this you can learn, for example, from retail. Retail is detail, and I think this approach is really helpful for the other businesses as well. Really understand how the system runs, but above all, how customers behave and where your solution really fits into the customer journey.
Thank you. So we heard about the journey for the customers, and we heard about getting prepared in advance. And to keep the discussion very practical for you, startup, let's talk about decision making. How decision making look like, because there is a gap between startup and corporate, right? For startup, it's a very fast decision. 1 or 2 people are making the decision. For corporate, I always say the decision is a team play. So it's a group decision. Can you share with us more about how decision making with regard to innovation happening in your organization? Is it a structured approach? Is there one that is leading the process?
Yeah, so like for us at Lufthansa Innovation Hub and Lufthansa Group, what we usually try is to identify like the pain points first in our venture clienting program, and then we try to scout startups. But of course, we also find cool startups out there, right? And we want to push this external innovation into the, let's say, corporate organization. And what we usually try to do is find, of course, the right stakeholders. And I think this is when certain innovation units or, you know, structured formal programs might help, as you said, like the matchmaking, to facilitate this entry, because they might have the network already, they might have, you know, easier way to get in, and they might promote this idea. And yeah, so I would say it's also about getting the right people on senior management level on board quickly. Otherwise, decisions might take too long.
Yeah, similar actually. So yeah, but we are public. So, and as I mentioned, public institutions, the decisions take quite long, but you know, to enforce this, to make this possible, so and find the right person, we also have an innovation department in our institution, and you know, and they run a program. It's called Match and Connect, and it's all about, you know, find startups from everywhere, and you know, and find the suitable part inside our institution, clinicians, scientists, and bring them together. That's what it actually is about. So then you have this, you know, door opener. So, but finally, in the end, so if it comes to high investments and you know, all this stuff, this is in a public owned company. Really, so everything has to decide by the board above 100,000. And if it's more, then it goes to the supervisory board. Yeah, and part of our supervisory board are members of the Senate, so it becomes political. So that's the way it unfortunately is.
We don't like political in Israel.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
I think, Dikla, there's one good news here for the audience as well. So over the last, I would say, 3 to 5 years in most industries, and in our industry as well, quite a lot of companies, not only the large ones, have on the one hand moved to the cloud, and on the other hand adopted agile working mode. So that makes it much easier for the guys like you really to connect to these interfaces. So unlike, let's say, 10 years ago, when we talked to startups, quite often I heard it's interesting, but it does not fit really into our operating model. In the meantime, I would say in almost all the companies, also in the Mittelstand, mid-corp, you will find people who speak the same language. And everything you needed, let's say, a few years ago, in terms of APIs, in terms of how to work together and what's requested, this really changed. And therefore, Europe and Germany are really great opportunities.
Thank you, thank you. So before we kick off to question from the audience, another question that I know that the Israeli startup are worried about, regulation and compliance. I know you wake up in the morning and say, oh my God, regulation and compliance. So when I joined Munich Re, I brought a company from the Homeland Security and we built the commercial use case for it. And immediately in the product development stage, question about GDPR, privacy, were mentioned. Can you share with us what should startup pay attention when they're working with you? What do you know in the process working with you on regulation and compliance? Big questions, small answers.
Shall I really start? Okay. I mean, GDPR, of course, yeah. But to make it even more complicated, the data protection laws in Germany, as we already heard, so this is a kind of state-related law, so that has every federated state got its own data protection law. And in hospitals, there another fact you have to keep in mind, we have a so-called Hospital State Act. And in Berlin, for instance, just to an example, they changed until last year, last year November, we had a paragraph in Berlin that said that patient data has to be stored on the ground of a hospital. So only this is allowed. So we can store data from another hospital, or another hospital can store our data, but we can't go in the cloud or something else. This has changed now, which is really a good decision, I think. But so this data protection. So be prepared. The same as I said. Do your homework and get into this field. So this is really the most important thing: data protection and IT security. In IT, and we are critical infrastructure. That makes it not even easier. But this is another story. I think that is solvable.
So I'm from a highly regulated industry like you, Dikla, and of course we have to deal with this. And when I talk to fintechs and insurtechs from Israel, I always say you have the opportunity to play Champions League in Europe. And if you want to play Champions League, you have to train for the Champions League. And one topic is really to understand regulation. And of course, GDPR is the basis. Everybody knows GDPR, but there's more, like, for example, in the health data part, there are specific regulations. And for example, in the insurance industry, we have a lot of European directives. For example, IDD, it's a distribution directive for insurance products, and you have to know these regulations. And it's not rocket science. Like you know how a cloud works, you should know how regulation works. But it's really necessary to spend some time. And it's not enough to come to Europe and say, above all in the regulated industries, I know GDPR, that everybody expects, but you really, above all, when it comes to health data, that's a highly sensitive issue. You have to understand regulation there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Audience, do we have questions? I see whole hands on the air. Okay, so we will continue with the last question. Do and don't for startup. I will start with the don't. Don't send 5 emails a week. Very challenging for corporate to deal with it. Can you share one do or don't, very short one?
Short one, don't expect short-term revenues.
I like it.
For me, I would say, like, once you start working with a corporate, get a clear commitment for the project, the resources and budget, and the right decision makers on board to make it successful, and that you do not waste also your time, of course, and efforts.
Great.
I don't have a don't, I have only a do, and I think we heard a lot about the culture between Israel, America, and Europe. And I have to say, so when you are in talks with companies from Europe and Germany, they are quite proud to invite you. So they really love to work with you. And therefore, you should go a little bit deeper in perhaps even their history and what they are doing, their markets, that you show that you really dealt with a company, that you not only are interested in your own product, and this of course is important that you can explain it, but from the very first moment that you really give them the impression you care about their business and how to make an impact with your solution on their business. And then I would say it's really from a cultural level and so on, can be a good cooperation and good partnership.
Thank you so much. Insightful.